All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. And our first item on the agenda is approval of the Zoom video from January 18th as meeting minutes. Can we get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thanks, Tim. Second. Not the most thrilling item, but if any board member can
Oh,
give us.
second, I'm sorry.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, that passes. So I will turn it over to Dr. Mahdi for our next agenda item. And you're on.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy sunny Thursday. I am so pleased to introduce you to two of our leaders. You know one, but I just get such a kick from embarrassing him by making everybody know what a brilliant leader he is. So hang in there, Justin. I get the distinct pleasure of introducing our Environmental Health Bureau Chief, Justin Hauser. In all seriousness, everything you saw, I have a slide that I present in when I do COVID vaccines. We
Dr.
gave those
Mahdi,
to.
let me stop you for 1 second. I think you're ahead of me on the agenda.
Oh no. Are we?
I think it's okay. So what I wanted to do was to do the thanking of the outgoing members.
Oh no, I have to do it at the end, Chair, if that's okay with you, because I'm likely to cry. And so I wanted to save that till the last one, if that's okay. I have a special slide set at the end of my monthly report. So with your permission, I just wanted to keep this meeting in order and in business today. So
you want to hold that to the end, but the nominations are before the presentation.
And
so that we don't
let's rock on. Justin gets to live another day, just another 10 minutes Justin gets to live.
Thank you. So we'll move that agenda item, and then the next item is the election of new board members. So I'll pass that over to Linda.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here this morning. As Serena sent around in her email last night, we have 4 board nominees to present to you. And so they are Robert Gatter, who is, I think we've mentioned him to you previously. He is a professor at St. Louis University Law School. He is instructs public health, deeply invested in health equity, I think well known throughout the community here in St. Louis, as well as nationally recognized for some of his contributions, especially on COVID restrictions, state authority in these areas. And I think he will just be a very welcome addition to our board. I think I'm going to ask some of my other committee and fellow board members maybe to speak to the other nominees, Elizabeth Wright, Barbara Ludy, and Morgan Shields. Serena, can you want to tell us a little bit about Elizabeth Wright?
Sure, yes. So Elizabeth actually comes to us from the hospital and finance sector. She is very well connected in community, a relatively young leader who we think will bring some energy and enthusiasm to the board, and is also, of course, passionate about public health. In our interview with her, she did spend time talking about some personal experiences that she's had in the area and how she hopes that that will allow her to bring voice to some of the issues that she sees in community and that she believes this board is well positioned to work on. And I'll go through the other candidates that we interviewed. Dr. Ludy, for folks who don't know, during the pandemic, the regional response team and the pandemic task force actually worked directly with Dr. Ludy to develop protocols for homeless shelters. She, of course, is a physician with Washington University, also worked with Affinia, and during that period was very instrumental in helping the safety net figure out how to meet the needs of one of our more vulnerable populations. She brings a wealth of experience and again is very well connected in community, especially for those organizations and providers that work directly on homeless services. And then the fourth candidate that we interviewed is Morgan Shields. Morgan, of course, is also very enthusiastic. She actually focuses on mental health and works on issues around youth homelessness, especially as it relates to disproportionate impact of mental health on youth homelessness. Had some very good ideas about how to do more outreach for the LGBTQIA plus community of youth that are experiencing homelessness, and is very excited to join the board. So Tim, I don't know if you want to add anything. I know you know Morgan personally. Cyril's been under the weather, so I won't put him under the spot, but he also helped conduct the interviews.
Yeah, I know Morgan and I've been mentoring her at Brown School, and she's an amazing person. She's although relatively new to the St. Louis community, lives in the Tower Grove area and she's loving living in St. Louis. And, I think she will be a great addition to the board because of, the behavioral health expertise, the focus on serious mental health, disparities is a focus of hers, and people with disabilities and the other issues you mentioned. And she's really passionate and about helping. She really wants to help and work in the community. She already has been working in the community in her work. And you'll find her a really fascinating person, and she's really well published and researched already. And she did a lot of work in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania before coming here. By the way, I also know Rob Gatter. I've known him for a long time, and he's an amazing person. He's just his depth of knowledge is really going to be a great addition to the board. So
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. So just to kind of, I'm going to open this up for discussion about the candidates, but just to kind of set the scene for you, we have many outgoing board members, as we'll hear about later from Dr. Maddie. There are 5 of us that are departing, including our board chair, Serena, and our board vice chair, Tim, and I am leaving as well. So our ranks will be thin come March. We have 4 remaining board members, and then we'll have the new group of the new 4 joining us. So as of March, we will have 8 board members. I hope we have several additional candidates in the pipeline. We just did not get a chance to complete the interviews before today's meeting. So I'm very hopeful that by March or maybe April at the latest, we will have the full board roster completed. I think some of the people that we have are absolutely outstanding and will really bring a lot of new energy and direction to the board. I mean, I personally interviewed Rob Gatter and Morgan Shields, and their energy and enthusiasm was really infectious. And I think that they will really bring a nice jolt of energy to all the great work the department is doing. So I just wanted to open it up for any comments or questions, and then we will vote. We do need a vote of 7 persons to confirm the nominations, and then we will need someone from the department to relay our recommendation of these nominees to the mayor's office, because our vote is actually a recommendation to the mayor that she appoint these particular nominees. So we recommend to the mayor, and she does the actual appointment and swearing in, as many of you already know. So So any questions or comments about the nominees? Maybe some of you know them or have worked with them.
I'm sorry, I'm driving. Can I ask a question
Of
about the
course.
process, not the nominees?
Yeah.
Is there a plan to make sure that we don't lose 5 members at the same time next time? It feels like we should have a different succession plan.
So I can say that one of the members is not actually terming off. They moved. And we did have some unusual circumstances with other members who we were appointed and then decided that they couldn't do it because maybe they had to go back to school. So a part of the staggering that would have normally been built in didn't happen because we did appoint people who didn't actually complete a whole term for various reasons. But normally we would not have the majority of folks turning over at the same time.
Okay. And is there a training for board members?
Yeah, I can take that one, Embal, and I share your concerns that this has not happened in this way that I've ever known of. And so I agree with you that we need to work diligently to try and prevent it. But like Serena said, some of these were out of the ordinary circumstances. So there's 2 types of trainings that we're going to make available. I was actually at a meeting yesterday. The state provides board training for boards for health department. That's the Department of Health and Human Services, or DHSS. So that training will be available, and I will bring that information at the next board meeting. And I would encourage old and new members. I think it's a very unique time for a level reset. The state has worked really well with us to provide training. Furthermore, the Department of Health will also do our own internal training that some of you did, which you know is unique to us. But I think the state level training really provides insight on core public health leadership and principles as well. So between those 2 trainings that I will ask to be mandatory for all board members, I think we'll be in a good place. And I'll bring information to you about the state training at the next board meeting. But that's a great question.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing I would like to mention, Dr. Mahdi, if it's possible, would be for us to maybe nudge or suggest to whoever updates the website information listing board members to update that information, which includes our board member names, our terms, you know, sort of when we were appointed and when we term off, because it was very difficult. It was kind of just constantly difficult for me to keep a hand in our committee to keep a handle on exactly who was retired, who was going off when, you know, so and plus I think it would just be nice to have a current list on the website, you know.
Linda, happy to. If you could send me that list, I'll make sure it's on the website within a week. And then when we get the new board members, you could also wait until that time. But if I can get that list from you or Serena, we're happy to update the website. And we have a new website coordinator who can keep that current.
Okay, and just FYI, it's a little complicated because we are listed in 2 places on the city website, the Board of Health and the Board of Hospitals. But I'll make that clear in an email.
Timothy?
Tim?
Yeah, so you know, to Linda's point and to the question that was raised by Enbal, I think, or was called, I think it was Enbal. You know, all this is an interesting discussion, and we've been discussing it behind the scenes. And you know, and couple things. Even though I'm cycling off, I've made it clear that I will be available, especially on the subcommittee on academic partnerships, just like Ross has been available. So that's one thing. Number 2, I looked it up, like per Linda's comment, I've been on the board for 10 years, just so 2015 is when I joined. And there's something about boards that, you know, turnover is probably, we discussed this when we talked about the board bylaws, you know, turnover is, you can debate this, but I think turnover is healthy at some point. And that's probably in part what's happening here. So having those years on the website is important. But I, you know, but as much, because I love you all and I love the city and the board and the health department, it's hard to make this transition, but that doesn't mean I'm leaving and won't be available to help the city.
Yeah, and I think we all feel that way, but
So,
Tim, you've been great about that, so thank you.
yeah, so I think that's the message that, you know, it's just sort of unfortunate it all happened all at once, but you know, we've talked about why that's the case, so.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we're not at our limit of board members. So
Yeah, exactly.
part
So,
of the reason that it's the majority is because we have vacancies from folks who didn't complete their initial terms. So I do want to acknowledge that the governance and nominating committee is very small. It's 3 people, and they did a lot of work over the last few months. You'll remember that at almost every board meeting, we were asking for nominations for candidates, and many of you sent names forward, and that helped us a lot in moving this process along. But they've actually done a great job of identifying candidates, reaching out to people, and we have a good lineup. So we think the board will be in a good position moving forward.
Thanks, Serena. I just wanted to recognize that our fellow committee member, Dr. McNicholas, has just joined. She, I know, is just getting off a plane, I believe. So, Colleen, we just finished reviewing the 4 candidates and providing information about their backgrounds. And we've been discussing how can we avoid getting into a situation like this in the future where we have, you know, so many board members terming off at the same time. So, did you want to add anything about any of the nominees, Colleen? I'm not sure if you're in a place where you can talk.
Thanks, Linda. I'm in an Uber, but I've heard a little bit of the discussion in the last couple of minutes. But I will say of the candidates that I interviewed, I definitely think they will be an asset to the board. In addition to certainly reviewing the CVs of the folks who I didn't have an opportunity. So excited to have some more folks join us.
Okay, great. Okay, any other further comments or discussion before we move to a vote? Okay, so I think we should just go over these nominees one at a time if we could. So all board members in favor of adding Robert Gatter to our ranks, please signify by voting aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so I believe we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we believe we have 7 votes. So Rob Gatter is now ready to be recommended to the mayor's office as a board member. Elizabeth Wright. May I have all those in favor of her becoming a board member, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So we will have an affirmative vote on Elizabeth Wright, add her to the list of recommended candidates. All those in favor of adding Dr. Barbara Ludi to our board, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And finally, Morgan Shields. All those in favor of adding her to our board, please signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Let the minutes reflect, the board has voted unanimously to recommend for appointment the 4 nominees considered. And I think it is back to you, Madam Chairwoman.
All right, thank you, Linda.
Hey,
So-
can I correct Linda? Sorry, because you're amazing, but do I count that there are 8 board members on the screen? Isn't that right? Just for the record,
Yes,
I think you said 7, but for the record, as it goes forward, you might want to say 8.
okay, thanks,
Okay.
Pam.
I'll trust your math. Thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead. Thanks.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
So now we will turn it over to Dr. Mahdi to introduce Justin to do his fantastic update.
All right, we're gonna start this again. Justin hates this, so I'm going to lengthen it out just for some razzle dazzle. But I get to introduce our Environmental Health Bureau Chief, Justin. Justin, you've been with the department for how many years?
We're going on 7.
7. It feels when you work with Justin like it's longer. And one of the things that I think people need to know about Justin is I have a PowerPoint slide when I talk about the health department across the country, and it talks about the close to 46,000 vaccines we gave during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was under Justin's leadership that happened. He leads a host of sections: animal care and control, air pollution, community sanitation, food inspection, and emergency preparedness, where we respond to these urgent and necessary measures. He's done so with limited capacity, not a full team. And today he has the pleasure of coming to talk to you about one of our resounding successes, which is animal care control. You all used to hear me love to say, I only have 2 animal care control, two. They're gonna come and update those numbers with you. And I have the distinct honor of also introducing one of the brightest rising stars in the department as well, Allison Parker, who is the new supervisor. We never had a supervisor for animal care and control because we only had 2 people. Remember when I said two? So now we don't just have 2. And that's why Allison has a job. And we are so grateful to have Allison. When I first met Allison, I said, they're gonna eat this girl alive. She was a quiet, introverted little thing. Let me tell you about quiet but mighty. Allison plays no games. I am so proud of her. She's one of my favorite rising female leaders, period. And what she's done to bring necessary infrastructure, advocacy, leadership, and boundaries to animal care and control makes me extraordinarily proud. So they have been asked to come and just give you an update on animal care and control. We're going to do it right now, and they'll be available for questions. So over to you 2. See, it wasn't so bad, Justin.
It's never as bad as it seems, Director. Thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. Mahdi, and thank you to the board members for allowing us the opportunity to give the update on animal care and control. I would like to just add one caveat to the introduction, that any success that I have seemed to achieve in the Bureau is because of individuals like Allison who have supported me through all of that effort. So it definitely wasn't me alone. We have a great team here at the Department of Health. On to the status update for animal control. We've come a long way in the past 18 months, kind of starting from what Dr. Mahdi has mentioned with the staff of 2 animal control officers and modified after-hours response capabilities. We've moved through a time where we've only had 3 relatively new officers and no supervisor to where we are now. We have an experienced supervisor in place. We have resumed normal after-hours response activities. We have 8 full-time officers right now. 8 full-time officers right now. We have a part-time officer as well. And then we have a new employee that has just joined the team this week. So we're very excited about the staffing levels here in animal control. The staffing is just one piece of kind of a larger puzzle. There's a few other pieces that I want to talk about. but also just some of the more exciting things that we have going on in animal control. During the time that we've been stabilizing the animal control operations, the team has been very innovative with the use of new equipment and strategies to help improve the day-to-day operations of animal control, which I think has resulted in us being able to grow and retain the staff that we have now. We've implemented the use of a collapsible dog trap, which aids in the apprehension of at-large dogs, and it also helps to minimize the number of the dynamic, unpredictable, multi-officer responses that we would previously use on those type of calls. And it's a much more controlled capture now with the use of this dog trap. The team has also begun to utilize leash pulls. They offer more comfort to the animals than the traditional catch pole that you might be familiar with. And at the same time, it provides safety for the officers as well. So it doesn't compromise officer safety, but it's also providing more comfort for the animals when they're apprehended. We've also been streamlining some processes in the department as well. We've digitized a large number of old cumbersome carbon copy forms that were previously used for dangerous dogs, for animal bites and impounds. Those have all been digitized now and are used electronically in kind of concert with the CityWorks program that we use. Along with improvements for documentation, we've standardized the onboarding and training processes to ensure that as we expand the team, everybody receives the same solid foundation to start from. That staffing piece is really one component of the puzzle. The next one is kind of the community collaborations that we've engaged in. The animal control team has collaborated with multiple community agencies. Carroll House Quick Fix. We've worked with Bi-State Pet Food Pantry for a vaccination event for community members. Allison has coordinated the most recent and highly successful community cat clinic through working with the community partner Feral Cat Outreach. And then we've also worked with the Humane Society of Missouri most recently. They graciously offered us space to house animals during the brief shelter closure that went on while we were completing the desperately needed floor repairs. That was a Herculean undertaking. It required the placement of over 150 animals that were housed at the shelter into foster placement. And then this is in a foster network that already supports over 100 foster animals just continuously. The shelter isn't large enough to support the population that we serve. And so we continually have 100-ish animals that are placed in foster care just all the time. And then we needed to find a home for another 150 animals. So the shelter could be cleared and the floor repairs could be conducted. Now, while the floor repair project was a success, it was only a Band-Aid to keep the current shelter operational. And the main priority for the entire Environmental Health Bureau for the next year is to identify and transition into an appropriately sized building that meets the needs as well as the standards for animal shelter operation. Just to give a quick overview of what the current facility is, right now, the current facility we're in, it's undersized for the population that we need to provide care for. And it also lacks an appropriate floor plan to conduct and fully support the services that our shelter provides to the community. The shelter building now is just a large open space with a few small rooms for storage for food and other supplies. There's no space for customer-facing services that are currently offered at the city shelter location. Adoptions, meet and greets, return to owner activities, they all take place next door at the offices for our shelter operator. And that's just simply due to a lack of appropriate space at the current shelter building that we have. For the shelter building that we're looking to for the future, the next shelter building we're looking for, we want to have the right office and administrative space to house all the needed customer-facing services, as well as housing the animal control team and their office space. Currently, they're split. The shelter's over on Clark Street, the administrative offices here at 1520 Market. We're looking to combine those and house them together to help streamline those operations. We're also in need of a better configured space that allows for new intakes to be quarantined. This is to help protect the overall health of the shelter population. We also need a separate, more secluded area for housing cats. We need appropriate spaces for vet clinics and surgery activities. And then we also need an adequately sized outdoor area for animal exercise and enrichment. We're also looking for outside space. We need better parking for the public. Right now, it's all street parking at the current shelter location. And then we're also looking for a secure area to house the animal control vehicle fleet. Those are just some of the exterior considerations for the new building. The vehicle fleet, mentioning that kind of brings me on to the next piece of the puzzle. And a reliable vehicle fleet is just absolutely essential for the animal control team. We currently have 7 animal control vehicles available, which may sound like a lot, but let me give a little more detail about the vehicles that we currently have. 3 of the 7 are aging diesel F-350 pickup trucks. When I say aging, I just want to provide some numbers. They're from 2005, 2006, and 2007. The pickup trucks are not designed to best transport animals, and due to the age of the vehicles, most of the doors and compartments have reduced functionality, if at all. There may be one compartment that's a solid compartment that can safely transport vehicles in each of those 3 trucks. Now, 2 of the vehicles, the pride of the fleet, are cargo vans. They have interior cages that are designed to transport various size animals, and these 2 are the core of our animal control fleet. They're used for training new officers, and then also used for when multiple animal transports are needed. Rounding out the 7 vehicles, the last 2 vehicles we have are surplus cargo vans from the police department. They've been stripped out of the interiors, and we have temporary kennels installed to enable us to transport animals safely. And this was just a stopgap measure that as the team grew, more vehicles were needed, and this was the best alternative to being able to have access to brand new vehicles, were the surplus police department vehicles. Of the 7 that we have, 2 to 3 are typically down for repairs and maintenance at any given time, and that negatively impacts the ability for the animal control officers to respond to calls. So we do have 7 vehicles, but our goal is to successfully advocate for additional vehicles to be approved for animal control so that we can rotate out these older, less suitable vehicles, replace them with newer, better configured and more reliable vehicles. The vehicle fleet, that's kind of the third piece of the puzzle. We got the staff, that looks great. Now we just need to kind of shore up. The shelter is in desperate need of a new building, and then the vehicle fleet is kind of a medium tier goal that we're making progress on, but we definitely need to solidify. Now, I know this is a lot of information to take on, and I want to provide an opportunity for the board to ask any questions they may have, or for us to shift the discussion into something that I might not have covered that is of interest about animal control operations. So I'm just going to be quiet for a moment. We'll turn things over to the board, and I think for the rest of the time that's been allotted for us, Allison or myself will answer any questions that there may be about animal care and control. Thank you.
Thank you,
so much,
Justin. Do we have any questions?
I do.
Or-
Always. Hey, Serena, by the way.
Hello.
Good to see you
You too.
and everyone as well. Not like it's bad to see y'all. But anyway, Justin, how does City of St. Louis's animal control needs and incidences and all those things compare with other counties who have health departments that do animal control, the state or nationally? Just kind of curious and maybe a little nerdy to think about. And then are there, and this may be jumping so many miles ahead, but are there ways to think about social interventions that make good use of our animal care opportunities, or if that makes any sense?
It does. I think I'll turn things over to Allison to provide some insight on that kind of social aspect, and then as well as the numbers. I'll start to give her a moment to compose her thoughts, and then I'll turn things over to her so that she can kind of finish strong. But there are several activities the animal control team engages in now. I was given 10 minutes, and so I just took one deep breath and just went off to the races for that kind of briefing that I gave. But the animal control team has begun the friendly pet finder activities they do are an effort to, when we come across a stray or at-large dog, to scan it for a microchip to find the owner, to knock on doors in the neighborhood. Hey, has anybody seen this dog? We've engaged in several new practices to try to just not have, hey, there's a dog, let's take it to the shelter and impound it, as being step number 1. There's several additional steps that we take now to try to find that owner and just kind of circumvent that whole system. Allison, I think I'll turn it over to you now. If there's anything you'd like to add about Friendly Pet Finder or any other of the strategies we currently use, just to add to the discussion. Thanks, Allison.
So we've been implementing a lot of new strategies to try to have a more community-based model for animal control. We have been studying a Humane Society of the United States model called Pets for Life. We've been introducing a lot of those strategies to try to reduce the amount of animals that are being impounded to the shelter, and trying to provide more resources to the community. Justin did mention a lot of the things we're doing, scanning for microchips, bringing dogs directly home, knocking on doors in the neighborhood, asking people, you know, have you seen this dog before? Do you know where it lives? Things like that. We are relatively progressive in that area compared to most animal care and control agencies. Animal care and control is widely based on enforcement. And so many agencies are still with that model, and we're trying to move past that and see how we can help people. As far as numbers go, the amount of animal control officers we have compared to other agencies, we're pretty standard. We do have a good amount of positions that can you know, answer all of the calls we receive in the city, because we do receive a lot of calls compared to the other sections in environmental health. The vehicles is one thing we're lacking in, I would say, comparing to other agencies. Typically, you would like to have a couple extra vehicles, you know, more vehicles than you would have officers, so that if one is down or in the shop, you know, it's not going to take an officer out of the field. Does that answer your questions?
Incredibly, yes, you are a force to be reckoned with, as Dr. Mati said.
Period.
It does raise one. It does raise one more consideration. Just because I have space to talk about this, I have a fictive kin brother who was diagnosed with HIV, struggled with housing and employment and just like general life stability. He had a cat that he would almost make sure this cat ate and survived before he was taken care of. And so it, you know, I was astounded by it, but understood the connection that he had to his pet, despite his inability to really care for the pet. So I'm just curious, is that true in our context? And if it is true that folks are not just being negligent, but lack the resources in the framework of the determinants of health to actually sustain care, where does that register in our intervention capacity, intervening capacity?
So
Yeah,
I would say
go ahead, Allison, and then I'd like to add to that. Go ahead, Allison.
we see both sides. You know, we definitely deal with a lot of people that are below the poverty line. They're struggling to make ends meet for themselves. You know, sometimes we do see the people that their animals are taken care of more than they are. Sometimes we see people who are struggling to get food on the table for themselves. So, you know, the pets come second to that. Part of the Pets for Life model that I mentioned is that we do recognize the connection between people and their pets, and we feel that everyone should be able to sustain those connections, and there shouldn't be any disparities in who should be allowed to do that. And so that's why we do like to help people take care of their animals whenever we can.
Couldn't agree more, but I do love the challenge and the encouragement to consider inter-bureau collaborations around advocacy issues. There quite frankly wasn't capacity. The fact that Allison can tell you with a straight face that we now compare to other counties is nothing short than a miracle. I will definitely pat myself on the back. It's one of the resounding leadership wins under me, but it really belongs to Justin, who advocated, who taught me. Other bureaus benefit from my infectious diseases expertise. Justin doesn't benefit from anything but my strong leadership and infrastructure and kind of business savvy ways, but I am not a content level expert in really any of his bureaus except partly in emergency preparedness. And so his leadership and advocacy, he made clear to me the distinct and clear deficits. There were times when Justin literally said, we're going to have to shut down animal care and control. To have 2 officers from an entire city is unacceptable. And for that to have been allowed for years is unacceptable. So now we're going to go to the part of the program where I can't say the things that they can say. If you are listening to this, because sometimes Justin just makes you feel comfortable and soothed, like, and everything's okay. So hear me when I say this. I have a certain level of professional rage within me that we as a department have done so much to stabilize animal care and control. And there are 2 things that could take us down. Number 1, if we do not get a new building, and you have all heard me say this, so I need everybody to wake up, stop answering emails, don't play solitaire if you are. This is the time where the outgoing and the new board chair, one of the biggest parts of your advocacy this year, I just submitted my budget and it's my number 1 priority, is a new building for animal care and control. All of this progress, all of this work, all of this investment will mean nothing if Department of Agriculture in the state shuts us down because we do not have an adequate facility. We have been working with the mayor's office for a year. We need a new building. That's it. I need the people to know, sound the gong. This is where all the activists who like to tell me how to do my job but don't respond to RFPs or when we need help. This is the help I need, just this. I don't need you to tell me, Justin, Allison, or these very experienced officers how to do their job. I need you to advocate for a building. Find us a building. Rich people, where you at? Give us a building. That's it. That's all I got, right? And the second thing is, it's a waste of their resources and talents if they can't even drive around to collect animals. And it is so unsafe for them. They are already in really unsafe. I want you to imagine if your day-to-day job is going to get rabid animals, rabid, dangerous animals every day. That's what they do. They put their lives on the line. They don't get the same level of protection as the police or the same level of training, but they do it, right? And we can't even get them just regular fleets of cars that are safe, and things are falling apart and it is dangerous for them. And these folks show up every day and they don't get paid as much as they should, even though I've raised across the section salaries. So this is my rant for today. If you ever want to see me angry, let's talk about this some more. But hey guys, we need a building. Where are the rich people at? Where are the buildings? We need a building. And Justin can provide you with an email with the specifications, because we can't just take any old building. It needs to be appropriate for animals, appropriate. Okay, I don't even do pets. My kids are just gonna cry every day till they leave this house because we ain't getting a dog over here. Jesse needs to hear me say this. The kids need to know. But my heart breaks at some of the things I see for these animals. So last thing I'm gonna say, in case you didn't hear me, we need a new building. We need a new building, need a new building, need a new building. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Kristen.
Dr. Motti answered one of my questions. It was I'm trying to understand the process of advocacy for the building and how we can support beyond, I'd say, traditional measures to ensure that we are coming in supportive and loud as board members, that it is a priority. And so if there's any other suggestions outside of what is available to us, please let me know, or I'll reach out to you individually just to figure out what else can be done. Secondly,
let me go ahead and answer that so that we don't get lost in the sauce. This is it's a hard time. So I really appreciated Mball's question earlier. New board members are just going to be getting their feet wet. They're not going to come in like, now let's fight for a new building, even if they want to in their hearts. So all existing, current, outgoing members, if you want to stay cool with me, I would really love it if everybody got together and figured out a letter, a call, gets on the MSI website, advocacy. MSI is a location that the mayor's office is talking about us for consideration. I've made my concerns clear that that is an old jail workhouse. So as far as appropriateness for animals, it is not appropriate in its current form. And unfortunately, I don't have my, I have trust issues now, having been director for 2.5 years. And one of them is, can we do the adequate, very intensive level of construction to get it to where it needs to be? If the answer is yes, because we need to be in a new building by the summer, then I'm all for it. But if not, I need letters, I need phone calls. I need you to get an advocate on the phone with a lot of money. And that's what the outgoing members can go out with a bang, so that I know that you really advocated and cared for us. Because to leave it to 6 new board members to figure out when they're just learning who they are as a board member and what the Department of Health even is, I think could set us back in advocacy. So this would be my request for the current and outgoing board members to get together to do one thing, Justin will provide you with an email. I will send it to Serena by end of day today with the specifications for a new building. And if we could figure out, or maybe use the rest of the discussion, how you guys would like to mobilize around advocacy, that would be great. Does that help answer your question, Kristen? Great. Sorry, you had another one, girl, but if you let me, I'll keep going. Building with a B, building with a B.
New building, MB, I got you. Second question was my curiosity around if there is a strict timeline around how long animals can be housed in the current building and what happens after certain timeframes and what happens with overflow.
So I wouldn't say that there's a specific timeline. Ultimately, our shelter partner, Care STL, does handle the care aspect of the animals. And so we have had issues with them in the past of them keeping animals for a couple hundred days at a time. And we were at a point where our shelter was very overflowed. They have gotten what they call their length of stay down significantly over the past 6 months or so with a new executive director that they have. So that has been a positive change we've seen. But we do have so many animals coming in every day from animal control. Even when we shut down with emergency procedures, we still had, I think the average was 2 to 3 animals coming in per day. So the shelter fills up quickly and they do their best to get the animals out for adoption and everything. But there's no specific timeline or point where an animal gets euthanized for space per se. They do have a quality of life committee in which they, if there's an animal that might qualify for that decision, they kind of have a small board that would help determine that decision. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you
And the
very much.
last thing I'd like to say is, because we don't have enough resources, money, building capacity, ideally we should have our own building and our own staff that runs that building, but we subcontract out those services. And I've been on this board before to tell you the challenges around subcontracting. Care STL are an amazing partner to us. They were unhappy when I came on, quite frankly. We were unhappy in certain ways. Justin and I have worked really well with their president, Wang, to really deal with the things bi-directionally that we needed to see improved. But when you are subcontracting out, there are expectations that we have, there's expectations that they have, and their limitations, right? And so they are big around advocacy. We've worked very hard with them. They have done a lot of increase in staffing, but let me be clear, they do not have enough people to adequately service these dogs, get them out for walks. They require volunteers a lot of the time. And because we are overwhelmed with dogs, it is not an ideal or humane situation for these poor animals. So the advocacy issue is real, and the building, the bigger building that would house these animals in better light would really help with that, because staffing for Care STL will continue to be an issue. But I did want to honor their leadership and thank them publicly on this call. It sounds like it's all negative, but there's been a lot of improvement to get us here. And what I fear is that all this work that we've invested will be for nothing if we can't figure this out. So my goal is, let's have a building and a plan to get these animals into a better place in the summer. Let me get a ribbon cutting and y'all can come and cut the ribbon. We take pictures, whoop-de-woo. But right now we need to really, really make sure we get this across the finish line, because again, all of this work would have been for nothing. I'm gonna stop now because Serena, I'll keep going on my little soapbox if you let me.
Well, so Linda, did you have a question still?
Well, yeah, I don't know that it's important, but Dr. Mai, do you have a target building in mind or a specific property?
Justin, can you talk to that and some of the efforts you've been going through with leadership in the city for over a year, trying to accommodate that, and then just talk about your ideal?
There's not a current single property that we're looking at. There's been several that we've toured, but that haven't worked out for various reasons, whether it's budgetary or just geographic, physical. I can give the high level screening criteria that we use for the prospective animal shelter buildings. We're looking at around 30,000 square feet. That's the size we're looking to move into. We definitely need more space, but we also understand that we could fill up a stadium if need be. That's the needs of the city. But we're looking at 30,000 square feet or better. that we can configure into separate smaller rooms. The current shelter right now is just one large open area, but best practices really offer that kind of compartmentalization so that there can be isolation and quarantine for new animals to protect the health of the overall general population for the shelter, as well as some secluded areas for the cats and other things. So that 30,000 square feet, we'd like to be able to configure that into several smaller rooms for the different pet populations. We're also looking for that administrative space for the customer service, all the outward facing activities we do, as well as the office space for the animal care and control officer. So we're looking at 12 spots so that the supervisor and the animal control officers have a space to work at the shelter. There's some mechanical requirements that we need. The floors, especially where the animals are housed, need to have adequate floor drains. This helps with the cleaning and sanitizing of the cages that takes place every day. There also need to be just general hookups for like a laundry and a mop sink area as well. This is for the feeding and the cleaning. There needs to be an alarm and a remote monitoring system so that we can protect the animal population. Those are the interior things that we need kind of at a high level. High level exterior stuff, we need to have a dedicated entrance for the public and then a separate entrance for the staff and for animal impounds. The current shelter building, probably the one thing we could highlight about that location is it has kind of a gated sally port area. So there's 2 levels so that we can bring a truck in, lock the gate, and then take the animals off the truck just to provide some safety and security while we're moving the animals. So that current gate system is great. We'd look to emulate that at the new space. We're also looking for better parking for customers, as well as secure parking for the animal control fleet. That's around 10 spaces or more for the city vehicles. And then also a better, more adequately sized, fenced outdoor space for the exercise and enrichment activities for the animals. Right now, the volunteers walk them down to Jefferson. While it is a workable solution, not ideal, but those are the high level items, and that will be provided in an email to the director so that can go out to the board so everybody has access to that information.
And just to be clear, so if to the extent there is a public funding request, this is going to the city for the city funding. Is this a state funding issue at all? Should we be thinking about the Board of Aldermen?
It is not, Linda. We have never been
Okay.
allocated funds for a new building through Department of Health, so the entire budget is dependent upon the mayor's office. So we have been working with Nancy Cross to try to advocate and get this building for the past year. And she has been a great advocate for us, but unfortunately we are still here. So again, the budget resides with the mayor's office.
And so the Board of Aldermen is not relevant here, or?
I do not believe they are as far as budget goes, but as far as advocacy, positive peer pressure, et cetera, I would believe so. I met with President Megan Green last week, and I was as vocal, as passionate, and as clear as I have been on this call with her too.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, so we actually did discuss this and when we had our in-person meeting in December, and one of the action items was to bring it up for discussion. So this is very timely. I think there's a distinction between advocacy around approving the amount in the budget versus assistance with finding a building. It sounds like you probably have that under control. Like you don't necessarily need board members to help find buildings, but if I'm wrong.
No, I need all of it, because again, all of our efforts to date have had us 1.5 years still not in a building. We have been, so the other thing that I need to tell you is we were cited by the Department of Agriculture that our current building is not sufficient. We made the minimum necessary repairs. That is a placeholder. If we are not in a new building this year, we are at risk for being shut down. So we failed an audit. I don't fail audits. When I came, we were in the red for most audits. I've got us out the red for most audits. I have no control over this. It drives me crazy because I have done everything else to increase in this area. Justin has done everything else to increase. Allison has done everything else. These new 8 officers, everything else. And we will get shut down if we do not have an adequate building. So we have more animals than people. We have a lot of very loud and vocal advocates. I have yet to get actual in-kind assistance for a new building. So I need buildings. I need advocacy to the mayor's office. I need funding opportunities if available. I need all of it, whatever you can give. But thank you for that question, Serena. We have been working for 1.5 years with the mayor's office. We still don't have a building identified, so I need all of the things.
Okay, that's helpful. All right. Thank you all for this very thorough report. And it sounds like we have some to-do items. Once I get the information, I think the next step is to probably gauge who can work on which issues. I think the advocacy, sending the letter, making phone calls is something that everyone can do. But I would imagine that folks who have real estate connections would be the ones who would want to help with actually identifying buildings and things of that nature. And to Tim's point, none of us are going to disappear just because we're terming off. So we definitely want to make sure we're still available and engaged to assist in whatever way makes sense.
Music to my ears.
All right. So we're at our next agenda item. And really, Dr. Motti, you have two, the jail update and the departmental update. So we have, I believe we have plenty of time. We have 30 minutes. So I'll turn it over to you for those next two. You're muted if you're talking.
Times I think you guys prefer when I'm muted, but here I am unmuted. So I'm going to move on. I want to thank Justin and Allison. I think we can all agree they did a phenomenal job of getting you the information, but most of all, I want to thank them for their leadership. I'm so glad you get to see what I see every day. So I'm going to present to you the new updated monthly report. As you can see, Erin Ford, our phenomenal PIO under Shantae's leadership. Shantae has hit the ground running as our new community outreach and communications manager. She is exceptional. I think you all know this. And so you saw the updated annual report that was a huge improvement on our inaugural one the year before. And so you should expect this new format moving forward. As always, you will get some greetings from me. But let's talk about the fact that I am back outside, y'all. Your director is outside. 9 speaking engagements so far, 5 remaining speaking engagements through February. I was given the biggest compliment of my career. I get awards and I'm grateful for them, but the one that means the most to me was I was told, you're our community doctor, right, Dr. Motti? And so that's what this reflects. I'm going to get a t-shirt made that says St. Louis Community Doctor. Honestly, it had me tearing up. It was so beautiful. And so I have been teaching. I am engaged with my why. When the going gets tough, I shared very transparently with many of you that January was very hard. I was under attack at the national level, viral pieces, being told to go back to Africa, being told that I was a DEI hack and hire for doing my job. And it was scary. There were threats made, and it affected me, my family, but also the department. And I want to publicly thank this board that reached out to support me, to remind me of my why. But one of the other things that Anika, my executive assistant, does is make sure I'm in community at least twice a week. And so what you see here is that reflected. I'm really looking forward to seeing Miss Ollie next week at her Black History Month program. Miss Ollie, if you don't know her, you need to get to know her. She is what I affectionately call an OG in the space of public health advocacy in the city of St. Louis. And she has been fighting for the rights, the health rights for our elderly citizens for decades. She goes to Jeff City. She is a force. She has one of the best annual community events, and she brings all resources at the same time with music and dancing and just joyfulness. And so I really look up to her as a leader, because it can be very depressing to always tell people what's wrong with statistics, but to remind people that there's joy in our communities despite what we're going through is something that I'm trying to model for 2024. So I'm back outside, 9 and 5. We're teaching kids. I was in the 6th grade classroom this week, and I'll tell you, there were some of the smartest, most engaged kids I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to. But let's talk about our high impact. Mayor Jones came to visit the department on February 1st. It was an honor to have her there. We gave her some merch, as you can see, but it was an opportunity for her to meet the leaders that saw the city through the COVID-19 pandemic and lead every day, oftentimes not even known of and seen. We did a lot of employee recognitions so that they got their shine in front of the mayor. And we advocated for the same things you've heard me advocate for. So we were very, very pleased that she was able to join us. Listen, I'm on an ad now. STL TV, shout out to them who make sure we can have these monthly meetings, do a phenomenal job of communications and education with us. I want to really shout out Donna Sanders and her team, who are great partners to us, even though they often don't get their flowers and often don't get paid on time, because it's hard sometimes at the city. And so thank you for hanging with us, Donna, and your team for many years. They did a beautiful public service announcement, and something that I was really glad to see just before Black History Month, because shout out to Greater Health Pharmacy in the Delmar Divine and Marcus Howard, who is a phenomenal Black CEO of a pharmacy that is intentionally by community for the Black and brown communities, and everything from his messaging to products that he makes. So we partnered with them to do a PSA on getting your flu shot. So we're still encouraging people to get their flu shot through flu season. The numbers I will speak to just now. But the breaking news is, many of you have heard me say, but I want to say publicly that I now, as of December 1, have been asked to step in, as should have happened, but thanks to the leadership of the mayor, this administration was the first to say, why isn't the director of health and the Department of Health overseeing medical care in the jail? They should be. That didn't happen before. So now that I'm involved, we have been involving our Behavioral Health Bureau, our Commissioner of Health, overseeing contracts, invoicing, and IT. I brought in a national entity, the NCCHC, which is the national accrediting entity for medical in jails. They did a site visit and provided us with a corrective, with advice on how to correct what's going on in the jails. I've also in the final stages of an emergency contract with them to provide evaluation and services for the first time in the city's history. So they will be here on a monthly basis, in person, remotely, providing both qualitative and quantitative evaluation services. I also was able to secure an emergency contract with a provider that has experience in jails that are have been going through it, for lack of a better phrase, but who have also done so in emergency situations. PCUSA, they've been a great partner to us. We were able to retain 85% of the jail staff that were under the prior provider who left at the end of November. And we are now up to over 93% of staffing in the jails, which is unheard of. We did what needs to be done in a year, in 6 weeks. I want to thank Serena, who stepped in as board chair to assist me, Will Pinkney, the director of the OVP, and all of the public safety leadership that helped us get across the finish line. So as part of that, the mayor allocated $2 million to the Department of Health for those medical oversight. And with that comes 11 positions and then some operational funds for this medical oversight. The priority position was a chief medical officer. Easily over 70% of my time has been in the jails since this happened, but I'm the director of all of health. So I can't actually do that. It's not sustainable, and it's not even safe, quite frankly. And so we have hired a new chief medical officer who starts on February 26th. Dr. Solaris is a licensed psychiatrist who has close to 15 years in correctional care. She most recently comes from Aetna National, where she has led systems of care at a very high level for over 20 years of her career. She is a mental health specialist, which is much needed, and she will work with my team. I want to shout out Dr. Julie Gary, our Behavioral Health Bureau Chief, who has put together in record time, had her staff in the jails observing, mapped out processes and systems, led meetings to really understand, because there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen in public safety, the sheriff's office, the courts, the jails, public safety, and health, and a subcontractor. That's too many cooks if you want something efficiently done, right? So we have been mapping out the flows. We have been putting together a brief report until NCCHC comes in and implements theirs at the national accreditation level. And it is just my goal to really support the commissioner, Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, who inherited a horrific situation and who is led without and who now has us as it pertains to medical care oversight. That doesn't mean everything will be better. That doesn't mean bad outcomes won't happen. I need to remind people that when you have 10 years, 15 years of disinvestment or dysfunction, it's not going to be undone in a month or two. I was at a public safety hearing that is live and recorded if you want to watch it. It was tough. The public were very understandably upset. Advocates were very vocal. And the Board of Aldermen was grilling me too. And I answered the way you all know I will. Honestly, transparently, when I don't know, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. When I do know, I do know. But what we are going to be is respectful. And what we are going to do is realize you don't, this is the first time you're working with me. So even though there's a lot of baggage there and a lot that needs to be done, the time now and the people that I now work with are people who want to work with me, because it's my job. It's the job of health. And I want to thank the mayor for her trust in me. I will take questions about that at the end, but just to let you know that under this new revamped report, and because this is online, you can see some of the writing is shifted, but please know that the copy you get will not have these challenges. You will see our respiratory illness, influenza, and COVID-19 numbers have mostly stabilized, but flu, if you look at the lines for 2022 to 2023 to 2024, we're not as bad as the year before, but we were getting record numbers there for a while. I really want to discuss why having a behavioral health bureau is so important. You see me there with our team. The Behavioral Health Bureau had the first ever departmental wellness day, where we allowed staff for half a day to come and do a sip and paint. They got lunch boxes, they got a wonderful artist to come in, and they got to paint, and we got a survey afterwards where there was 100% satisfaction. This was much needed. I tell people that the first thing I ever heard when I joined this department is we feel undervalued, we're overworked, and we're underpaid on repeat. So we've done a lot of work to change culture, and that's reflected in the fact that I've grown this department by over 31% in less than 3 years and 2.5 years, and that our retention rates are much higher. We used to have such high turnover rate, but we're seeing more people stay. So when I came, we were right at around 85 people. We're at 130 people in the health department. We're running out of space. Soon I'll be coming to rant about how I need a new building, because I can't squeeze desks and cubicles into any corner of the health department anymore. That's a great problem to have. But just want to thank the behavioral health team for really focusing on the wellness and mental health of the team. You will see all the bureaus represented here and all this fancy new layout. So take the time to go through it. Look at this picture. This is me and Rhonda pressing the button to put in on our accreditation. This was a couple of weeks ago. The application is in, so we'll take prayers and well wishes that we do get our accreditation. This is years of work. You all did this work. When I talked about this was the most active board, you all gave comments, you read documents, you proofed. You are an active part of these priorities that will be reflected for the next 4 years. I will come back at a future board date. We have to be compliant, but it's also necessary that you know what those priorities are and what this next stage of implementation looks like. So at a future board meeting, either the next one or the one after that, I will come. But how cute is Rhonda telling me to press the button? It was a very joyful day. Current job openings will be in the monthly report, and in the narrative version, you will have hyperlinks to these jobs. Please send them out. You will see the new City Justice Center in parentheses openings. So I'm moving past the CMO now to other positions that will help me with medical oversight. We don't provide clinical services, but we do the oversight and evaluation. So keep that in mind. And then I told you we're busy, we're outside. I'm really honored to be getting an NAACP award this Saturday, named after Ina M. Boone for public health leadership, alongside a giant in our community, Mike McMillan of the Urban League. And tomorrow, today, I'm going from here to the airport. I will be giving grand rounds at the NIH, which is probably the biggest stage that I get to represent our city. So I will be meeting the new Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is Dr. Jean Marazzo, a giant in our field, and meeting with leadership at the NIH on behalf of the city of St. Louis. A proud moment indeed. Now, the part that I left last, because I didn't trust myself not to get choked up, is we talked earlier in the meeting about our concerns about how unprecedented it is, but let's take some time to just show gratitude. Serena Muhammad, I remember the first time I met this woman was at a gym. I thought, man, this woman is a powerhouse. She intimidated me, and I never thought I would be way too annoying to ever be her friend or even in her circle. She is someone that I've grown with, that I look up to, that is, she doesn't know this or would accept this, but I consider a mentor. Even before she became board chair, When I took on this job, I didn't get any orientation. I didn't get a transitional document, and it was COVID, child. And Serena just quietly and firmly said, you know, if it'll be helpful, I can meet with you. And I've never told anyone this. Serena's kept a standing meeting for me. Oh, I'm going to start crying. Every 2 weeks for my whole first year. And I just want to tell you, friend, I would have never gotten through that first year. The city would have never retained me if it weren't for you. And there are people who talk a lot like me, but there are people that do a lot. And I like to think I'm one of those, but Serena is. Serena quietly but firmly, with such passion and dedication, mentors and advocates across our region. She talks to city governments, county leadership. She talks to mental health advocates. She sends you a quiet text just to say, did you know? Were you aware? But the most important thing she does is she always asks, what can I do to help you? And there is her footprint and her name has been behind most projects in the city of St. Louis. I honor you. You are a giant in this state. You are a giant in leadership. I can only hope that when I am done with my leadership, I can say that I've done even as just a fragment of who you are and how you are. Your integrity, sis, man. So I just know that you would hate this kind of thing, but for me, this is what needed to happen to properly honor you and your leadership. Thank you so much. You have definitely left this board better than what you found it, without a doubt. So I want to thank Serena. Tim, man, Tim is the biggest professional cheerleader I've ever met. Everyone knows I hate the word ally. I find it performative. I don't like it. I don't use it. But Tim is the picture that should be in the definition of ally in the dictionary. This man and his role and what he does at WashU, there should be no time for him to have stayed on this board as long as he did. But he loves this work. He loves public health. He loves and is so passionate about this. And all he does is, how do I cheerlead you? How do I tell the world you're doing a good job? And how do I help? We've been so blessed to have a chair and vice chair in Serena and Tim. Cyril was here long before I was here. And Cyril is one of the giants in public health in our region. He did some of the seminal work around public health and is tireless about Black communities. It makes me very sad, Cyril, that me and you have not been in person having lunch, but I want you to know that I see you, I know you, and the people that I respect you. Alma was the first person to meet with me. She had me, when I joined the Board of Health, she helped me figure out how to be on this board, to be in communications. I mean, what do we say about a fierce advocate like Linda, who is the reason this board continues to go, who reminds us, I think I'm scared that nobody's going to know the rules and regulations of this board. I'm going to be leaning into Craig, because let me tell you something, we'll just be out here bumbling, trying to do functional work. And Linda will be like, all right, now there's process, there's procedure. I want to thank you for your leadership, your advocacy, your belief in me, and for encouraging me, Linda, in person and behind the scenes. And then Dr. Corey Bradley, the bestie, the homie, who came on late, but boy, did he come on as just in Corey Bradley form, as a fire, just elevating us and always unapologetically advocating for minoritized and the most vulnerable, always asking the follow-up question. And I always think of Corey as setting the standard for accountability for me and for my department. When I say my first monthly report, that man got, I was so mad at him. I was like, you one of my best friends, and you sending me all this red ink with my reports. But he set the standard, and he made it okay for you all to know that that's a love language in public health and advocacy. So I just want to ask us all to unmute, to clap, to flood the chat, and thank these 6 outgoing board members. We will be sending you a certificate of appreciation signed by me from the Board of Health, but we love you. Thank you, everybody.
Put some money in that envelope.
Baby, I just knew your ignorant ass was just going to take a moment in life. I just knew it was going to be. Listen, you better leave the same way you came. You better be consistent.
I love this work.
Serena, forgive me, I had to do it, but you see why I had to change it to the end, sis. I didn't think I'd get through it, but we love you and we thank you.
Very beautiful. And thoughtful, and we appreciate all of your kind words, and it has been a pleasure to support you and work with you, and we know you will continue to do great things, so thank you.
And in this Black History Month, can we just shout out Black woman leadership supporting each other. We are Black History, baby. It's me and Serena and all of the Black folks on this board. I love you and I honor you this Black History, unapologetically, loudly, and on the record. That's all I got, Serena.
I feel like we need to make sure everyone has a recording of this meeting as a parting gift. Okay. All right. We actually only have one other agenda item, and that is our board committee updates. So as you've heard, the governance and nominating committee has been very busy. We will have some more candidates for you next month. And we'll share information, hopefully further in advance about those candidates so that folks get a chance to review that information before there's a need for a vote. One thing that will happen, I think someone asked about like the orientation process for new board members. We traditionally ask people to complete the orientation first and then assign them to committees. But what we will do is make some recommendations on committee assignments. We won't confirm or appoint anyone because we think that's the role of the existing or the current board to do that. But we will at least say, based on the interviews, based on the CVs that we have, these are boards that we think people might be well suited to participate in. Just like last time, we can make assignments, but folks can decide that they want to decline those assignments or ask for other assignments, so there may be a little bit of adjustment that happens in that process. But we do want to make sure that we have full support for all of our committees.
Just on governance and nominate, this is Linda, Serena. How do we want to communicate to the new board members that they have been voted in? Did you want that to come from me or from you or from Dr. Maddie, or how would you
That's
like
actually what I wanted to talk to you about tomorrow.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it then.
Tim, did you have anything for the academic partnerships?
I probably do, and I can't remember if I reported this last time or Inball's shaking her head no. So I will make the report with the apologies if this is a repeat. I know we did meet as a group, so I'll just, and this is mostly from memory. Sorry, I should have pulled up the notes, but I think I can do this, and then Craig or Inball, Kristen can fill in the blanks. So one of the most important things we did is we talked about the transition, and noting that I will be transitioning off the board, so that we needed a new chair of the committee, and Inball has agreed to, with a little bit of arm twisting, to take over the leadership of the Academic Partnership Committee. So thanks to Inball for doing that. But I will remain, as I mentioned, that I'm not going away. Like Will Ross, who's also still on the Academic Partnership Committee, I will remain on the committee for the foreseeable future. So there'll be continuity to that. So I don't know if we need to change membership of the committee or not, but that'll be up to Inball, and Kristen, who's the board members, and Craig, who's ex officio. So that's one thing we talked about. We discussed MOUs, which I know are in progress between WashU and in the city, and I've reached out to see if there's any update on that, and basically still in progress. There's an existing MOU with St. Louis University, and there's one in progress with UMSL. There may be one in progress with Harris Stowe. I don't know, maybe the director can speak to that. So we also had rigorous discussions, and I'm sure this will warm the director's heart, that we've continued to discuss the longer term agenda of sustaining academic partnerships, not just short term, but just having not just the sort of one-off internships, summer sort of practicums, but making it longer term, how to make those longer term relationships. And that would include, you know, maybe, and we've kicked around ideas around that. So relationships between faculty and students, faculty and the staff at the board, at the department, and pushing that with the universities. And so we're kicking around ideas around that. And I'm sure NVOL will, and the committee will continue to pursue that. And we also got a report from Spring Schmidt about her work around the state, around the correct me if I can't remember the name of the group, but that was our agenda, and that filled an hour, that's for sure. So. Any questions, or did I miss anything, Inbal or Craig? Craig's always the continuity on this committee for decades. Sorry, Craig, I shouldn't say decades, but you're like the historian on this.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, I'll leave it to Inbal and Kristen. If there's anything, I didn't see anything, but I'm sure they may have.
Sounds like you covered it, Tim. Any questions? All right, thank you. And then our third committee, you may have seen an email that Kristen Simpson has agreed to serve as chair of the Community Engagement Committee. So Kristen will be emailing you individually, collectively, just gauging your interest on whether or not you would like to serve on that committee. And as I mentioned before, of course, new members will also be assigned. But if you are a current board member and you're looking to switch committees, or you want to learn more about the committee, please respond when Kristen reaches out. And a meeting will be set based on the availability of the new committee going forward. All right. I believe those are all of the updates. Do we have any announcements? If not, our next meeting will be March 21st. I look forward to seeing everyone then. Have a good rest of the day. We are adjourned.
Much love, everybody. See you next month.